Next thing I want to tell is like the basic structure before getting into tags and all. So it might be helpful. So what we'll do is we'll just create a simple HTML. Let's say my first application. So let's say test application. So generally what happens is my root folder project should have my project name generally. So let's say I keep it as test. My application name is test, so I'll keep it as test. So then I can put my this file over here. I'll put my HTML file over here. So these are my, let's say I only have HTMLs. Just start with HTML files, then we can add other things. So now I have HTML files, right? So we can directly host it like this. I'll show you. So generally there can be so many web servers that you can install locally on your machines, and many of things like JBoss or Tomcat or anything like that. I generally, sometimes I build PHP applications, so I install WAMP. I already have WAMP on my system. So, or you can have, even if you don't install anything, there is something called IIS by default on your Windows machines, which is web server by Microsoft, where you can host your .NET applications and all. Okay, so when you download WAMP server, it will be something like this. So when you download the WAMP server, you will get something like this. So you can just double click and install. There is nothing configurations, nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just double click and install. It will automatically install, and you can go from your. You can choose that application and just click it. It will. The application will start. Like I'll show you that. So I can directly go here and click this. It'll actually ask you for some permissions, and if you see here in the tray icon, you see that WAMP symbol over here. So initially it was red and now it converted to green, which means that server started. So now I can directly go and open it. By default, any server, web server like Tomcat or WAMP will be installed in 80 port number 80, so that when you directly do localhost, when you directly do localhost, it will work. But because, see, this is IIS that I was telling about. IIS is default on 80. So all the web servers are default to 80 port. So, but because generally Skype runs on 80 and many other applications run on 80, so I've configured it to some other port. So here you can configure to other port through this. So if you directly click on it, on the WAMP icon in the tray, so you'll get a pop-up where in the Apache. So WAMP is basically a combination of multiple technologies. Like it's full form of WAMP is Windows, Apache, MS MySQL, and PHP. So it's combination of all this stuff bundled. It's actually you can install all of them separately, but so now if you see under Apache is a server, Tomcat Apache. So this is it comes with Tomcat Apache internally. So it actually by default, as I was telling you, it listens to port 80. So you can change the other port. When you click on here, it will ask you for other port, and you can enter the other port. It will work. So now because I have used some other port, I'll go to that particular port. So this is my WAMP server's homepage. So I can see all my projects here. Okay, I already have something called as test. Okay. So okay, so all our projects, whichever we hosted on our web server, this is like web server. Now if you do, you can see any Amazon's or GoDaddy's homepage also something like this. Now if you want to host our application, let's say my whole application is, I already have test, so let's name it to first app. Let's say I'll call it first app. So to host it, what we have to do is we have to go to the www folder of the web server. So it depends on server to server. In WAMP, we have to put it in www directory. We have to visit www directory. You can directly go to the tray icon, and when you click on it, it will ask you for www directory. You can directly, it will take you directly to www directory. If you are using things like Tomcat or something like that, you have to go to WebINF directory. So web apps directory of Tomcat. So in the folder structure of Tomcat, you will find it. So the point is you have to go to particular directory that is mentioned by the particular server and directly paste your application. You copy that application and paste it over there. Okay. So now my application got pasted. And if you have seen my home screen, you saw two applications, RRV and test. Because there are two folders, RRV and test, you got it. So let's say I create a dummy folder. There is nothing inside it but just dummy folder. But if you go and reload my web server, you will find all the projects apart from the projects that are required for setup of which are used by WAMP. All other folders will be displayed here as your projects. So whether or not the content is there inside it, it will be displayed as a folder. So now I have something in my first tab, right? So I should go inside first tab. When I click it, it should actually go, but there are some configuration issues. So it's going to first tab :8080. So how do we access any application which is hosted is, now my application is hosted. So the term hosted actually appears to be a very complicated term, but hosting just means that copying your folder from your local system to application web servers folder. That's all. So if you're now, when I copy pasted from my desktop to www folder, that means that I hosted my first app application to my WAMP server. Now let's say I want to host my application to GoDaddy server or Amazon server. They'll give you a FTP folder when you purchase some hosting space with GoDaddy or Amazon. They'll give you some links for FTP and all those things. So when you open that through FTP, you can open that folder. So once you open that folder, FTP folder is something like this. You can as you open C:, you can directly say FTP:/ and whatever path they gave. It will automatically open the same folder structure. You don't have to even install FileZilla or all those things. You can directly say FTP:/ and the URL that they gave. Automatically it will open. Now you just have to copy your local folder to that particular folder and your application is hosted. That's all. Okay. So another part of hosting is default. So when you see, when I directly set my application name in the root folder, it opened my parent directory with all the stuff. So if I don't have a default page, a landing page, it's called as landing page for application, it will open the entire structure. I mean, at least in local web servers. So by default, we can have a simple page called as index.html or index.php or any extension. If you have an index file, any showable like .html, .php extension, .aspx. So what happens is, by default, I'll change it to my landing page. So now when I go and do it, you see, I did not see the folder structure. I directly saw my home page. That is how when you actually do. I was telling you about mapping of domain name and IP address : port number yesterday, right? So when you directly purchase a domain name, they'll map their IP address and port number to your domain name. Let's say I purchased uitrainingforyou.com. So what they do is they'll host their IP address, let's say 192, 168, 140, whatever, : their port number to this particular IP domain name. So whenever you do this, google.com, what happens, you'll see a page instead of a folder structure, right? So what they do is they'll have an index.html page in that particular folder, in their application folder. So that particular is automatically picked. So it's like default page to be shown. So you can always have your default page as index. The name of the page should be index. The content can be anything, but the name should be always index. And the file extensions should be which can be rendered like .html, .php, .aspx kind of stuff. Okay? Got it? So, and the rest is same. Like if you want to add JavaScript files, you can create a folder called JavaScript or whatever name you want, and you can create CSS file folders or whatever you want. And then from inside your particular samples, for example, you can open and as we were referring here, right? So instead of this, I can directly refer css/styles.css. So now it will refer, so now you might have understood, right? So sample is in this folder of first app. So when I say that css/style.css, in that particular folder it goes to CSS folder, and inside it will pick the style.css. It can be so much, it can be nested also. CSS/CSS, it can be themes. So generally inside CSS folder in real-time application you file themes, web application themes like blue theme, green theme, red theme kind of things. Every folder will have its own CSS files, something like that. Okay. So this is the basics of how do you host your applications and how do you run it, what are the precautions that you take, index, naming conventions, sort of stuff. Okay. Have any doubts with this?
One thing, Vishwanath, in order to host our web page in the server, do we need to pay anything or just we can do that?
Depends on it. Like, I mean, if you want to host in your own system, you don't have to pay, but you have to host in public servers. There are content hosting providers. So, like I was mentioning, GoDaddy, Amazon. There are many other things, but these two are very famous. So you have to pay for two things. One is for purchasing domain name. Another is for purchasing space. So
Okay.
you have to copy your folder somewhere, right? So if you have to copy to their server, they'll charge for the space. So they'll charge per MBs, per GBs or something like that. There'll be default packages. So where they'll provide probably somewhere around 256 MB or 512 MB where you can host it. But these days, you get unlimited space also in many servers because hardware became very, it's available, right? So they're giving unlimited spaces also for lesser prices. The domain name is for, as I was telling you, you can purchase your own domain name. Like yesterday I was telling you about Flipkart.in, Flipkart.com, right? The difference. So you can purchase whatever, you can search the availability of domain names also. Like you can go to GoDaddy site directly. So you can search for your, let's say you want to search for whatever I was telling you, UI training for you.com. Let's say I want to search if it's available or not. You can purchase it, like it's like email registration. If you're registering you're signing up for a new Gmail address. If you type something, if it's already available, it says that it's available, right? You have to go for some other email ID. Same way with the domain names as well. So it will actually say, see, this is available. So you can directly purchase it for 125 rupees per year. Okay.
Okay.
Things like that. You can directly purchase it. It will be registered to your link to you. So you can, and it's independent. You can purchase your domain name from GoDaddy and hosting space from Amazon, and you can link both of them also. So it's like you can purchase it and you can link it, kind of stuff. Okay. So these are the basics of hosting and all. So we'll see a couple of tags before closing the session today, and we can continue with the tags tomorrow. So so we have a list also, what are to be covered. So probably we can share it down the line, what all we are going to cover in the session so that you can also be prepared. So we already covered introduction, HTML example, and comments. I showed you comment tag yesterday, right? In my sample page. So all these things are comment tags. So any text that is prepended by this and as ending with this prefix and suffix with these two things, that will be considered as comment, and it will not be rendered by the browser. So we talked about how the browsers render, what is interpretation and all those things yesterday, right? So this will not be rendered by the browser. This particular thing will not be rendered by the browser when it sees it. So now let's say title tag. So I can actually comment my title tag. So now the browser don't know about title tag. Although my title tag is available in my HTML page, it doesn't know about what is a HTML, what is a title for this. So let's not go with this HTML file, right? So now, hey, it's redirecting to something else. I have to. Okay, let's go with sample. So here what I'll do is I'll add comments. So if you don't add an ending comment tag, all the other tags below that will be considered as comments. So that's the reason you have to put the end tag also, end comment tag also. So now if you see the redirect, it shows the file name instead of showing the HTML5 tutorial. If I remove this, now I see a title for it. So what it means is like, so when we have a comment tag, the browser will not render that particular tag or whatever the content between those two starting and ending comment tags. Okay. So we can, another important point of commenting is, so we have couple of ways. I mean, depending upon the language we comment. Like in HTML we comment this way. In JavaScript or other languages like C, Java, we comment using double lines. You might have known this, right?
Yeah,
or
slash and a star.
Yeah, if you're doing a block level comments, we'll do like this, and we can have multiple lines between them. So if it's a single line comment, we go with this double slash.
Yeah.
Right? So this is followed same with JavaScript also. Another important point of commenting tag that I was showing you, we can comment JavaScript tag in the content inside JavaScript also. So let's say I was telling you about the first day about script tag, right? So this is one tag. We'll discuss about what script tag is. Yesterday we already discussed what script tag is. It will actually load scripts, right? So let's say I have my JavaScript here, function, whatever, blah blah blah, or whatever. So now by default this function will be executed. Let's say I'll have an alert, simple alert. So now when I redirect it, HTML is loaded. So I can basically comment this way, or so this will not work inside script. Yeah. So this will not actually work inside script. So I was telling you, we should better ways to use block level scripts or inline comments like this. Okay. So I think in the lower versions of HTML this was supported. So if you want to comment entire script, probably you can comment it like this, I guess. Yes, this is how it works. So if you don't want to comment a particular portion of the script, then you can do this way, so that entire script will be, so even the JavaScript inside will not be executed. Okay. So this way, another way of commenting JavaScript, you can directly comment a JavaScript. So generally we use these kind of comments generally for two things. One is for descriptive purpose, like if you see my HTML page that I was telling you, a lot of description in and around. So for explaining each tag, so what does this tag do, what does this tag do. So generally in real-time applications, apart from writing code, people what they do is they also write comments for each line of code that they do. Instead of each line, you can say each block. Let's say I've written a function. So to make sure that what that function does and all those things, we write comments. So another good part of writing comments is these days, if you see any application, you'll see documentation how to use it, right? So for example, there is any, like I was telling you in the first day about Google APIs, right? So it will give you what each function does. So let's say somebody is using my like there are two kinds of things. One is like end user people, what people use, like facebook.com or something like that, and there are some APIs that are hosted like Bootstrap. It's a product of Bootstrap, but it is used by developers. It's not used by end users. So if you want to use Bootstrap, you should know what are all how to use particular functions that they provide, particular tags that they provide, particular classes they provide, right? So to make instead of, so what they do is they write documentation for it, how to use what, when to use, what to use, and all those things. Instead of manually writing it, when you write comments in our application, there are some tools available online these days. Online in the sense there are some programs which can read your source files take the comments and create documentation for you. So for example, for JavaScript, there is something called as JS docs. If you run JS docs on your entire web application, like when I say web application, it's my root folder. In the WAMP, I was showing you first app folder, right? When you run your JS doc or something on your entire application, it will go through, scan through each JavaScript file, take the comments and create documentation for you. Okay? So
Okay.
that's a very important part of writing comments. So when you write comments, you don't have to write your own documentation again. It serves two purposes. One is for if you don't expose your JavaScript files, so you can create documentation files and share the documentation to end users. If you are sharing your JavaScript files for other developers, let's say in the same company, 2-3 guys are working. So let's say you built some functionality and you left the company, some other guy comes in. So if he wants to understand the code, he has to go through each line and understand what is it doing. He should understand the context, all those things, right? Instead, when you write comments, it will be easy for other developers or code developers to understand what does that function do. Okay? Got it?
Yeah.
So I'll show some. See, this is source code of jQuery. So we'll be discussing about jQuery in the future, but if you see any other libraries which are hosted on GitHub or anything like that, we'll discuss about GitHub also. You'll see a lot of comments mentioned inside it. So these codes are open source. Anybody can see the jQuery source and modify it, or if you want, you can override some functionalities inside it. So you'll see the lot of comments. See, these guys even wrote for each line if needed. So what does that do? See, for example, for if this condition, if that doesn't do, what should happen? So when you're trying to understand their source code, once you go advanced levels of JavaScript and all, many times sometimes you might face situations where you are expecting some library to do something and it's not doing. So what happens is you might have to go into the source code of that particular library and see what's happening. So that kind of situations, it will be very helpful to have comments like this for other developers. Okay. So if you see, a lot many comments in jQuery source, right? So this is because it's JavaScript, they're commenting with this, but if it's HTML, we'll comment like this. Or another advantage of comments is, let's say you wrote a particular component, you have written some component, let's say in my HTML, say the first tag that you see or anything like that. I don't want to show it for some time. I've built it, but I don't want to remove it from this page. At the same time, I don't want to show it temporarily. Probably later point of time I want to show. Then you can comment that particular thing, and later point of time you can remove the comments and show it. So basic point of comments is whenever browser encounters a comment tag, it will not render that particular tag, the content inside it. Instead of saying tag, it will not render the particular content inside it. The interpreter knows that, okay, I should not execute it. Okay, that's the basic purpose of comments tag. So you guys can refer more in open tutorials or anything like that about comments tag. Okay, so then we'll see about anchor tag. So anchor tag is another awesome tag that people most commonly use. So let's say most of the time, anchor tags are very simple. Like when you see do Google search, you get lot of links, right? So when you click something, it will open in a new tab. So all those things are actually links. So when you want to link two documents, let's say you are expecting your user to navigate from one page to another page, or you want your user to refer to some other resource. It can be image, it can be a media file like audio, video, or it can be another HTML file. So those kind of links will basically be showed created using anchor tag. So generally anchor tag will be something like this, a tag. So just by having this particular tag, this will actually create a hyperlink for you. So for example, let's go to this redirect HTML that we were using. So inside body, let's say I have anchor tag. let's say I call it as Google. So if you see, Google is there, but then now it's not acting like a link, because and there is another important attribute for anchor tag, that's called href. Until unless you have href, it is not considered as a, I mean it doesn't show you the actual features of anchor tag. So you can have it as href, and then if you don't want to redirect, just to see the purpose, you can just have something. So generally people use like placeholder for any URL. Hrefs is hash, so you can have hash, or you can have google.com or whatever you want. So when you do this, now if you see, it changed the complete style of it. So, and when you mouse over also, you can see the change of cursor. So if you see a normal thing, it's normal, right? It's selectable mouse pointer. But now when you hover on a hyperlink or a link or an anchor tag, the mouse pointer is something like you're supposed to click. It indicates that you can click it, right? So
It's more like a link. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So there are 3 different states for anchor tags. So unvisited, visited, and active. These are important things. So unvisited is something like so you did there are, let's say there are so many links here. You can understand the difference when you have it. FB and Sellington. So now if you see, I have so many, like I have 4 tags here. So when you don't visit any of the links, visiting in the sense like when you click and visit it, okay? So when you go and click any of them, so 3 states I was mentioning. Default state is unvisited state, and if you visit, the color changes to purple. So let's say I clicked it, all of them changed to purple. Oh, because all of them are having hash. It's my bad. So now if you see, so because I already visited hash, it shows it as purple color, but all other things are still in blue, right? So this is second state. First state is blue, default blue with underline. So whenever you have an anchor tag with href, it will be converted to blue. Text will be converted to blue by default, and it will have an underline also. So even let's say your entire theme is some other color. Let's say your entire web page theme is, like if you see each website have their own theme. If you see Google, they'll follow blue theme, blue and white themes. There are some things like Yahoo, they'll go with purple color. So each of them have their own theming. Some will have green themes and all. So let's say I'm in a red theme, but my anchor tags coming in blue. So this is where we CSS comes into picture, which will help us to change the styles of it. So when you can actually override it, but this is the default style. By using CSS, we can change style for each state. Now the default state is unvisited state, that's in blue with underline. The visited state is purple with underline, and there is another state which is called the active state. When you go it and press it and don't release your press, you'll see in red color. That is called as active state. So there are 4 links, but whichever is active will be shown in red. Active in the sense like key press, key down. Instead of key press, you can say key down. So when you mouse down, in fact. So when you mouse down on that particular link, that will be shown as red. That is active state. And when you remove, it comes back to normal state. Okay. So it redirected me to yahoo.com. So when I come back, you see it's already visited. So it became purple color, right? So that is how anchor tag works. So we'll see about other features of anchor tag. So we have another attribute called as target. We saw about href. There's another thing called as target. Now, when you saw the example that I was showing you, when I clicked on Yahoo, it actually replaced my current page and navigated to yahoo.com. Did you observe that? So when I click on Yahoo, so my current page is lost and this particular page is loaded, yahoo.com is loaded. But if I want to go back, I have to again get back. So at a given point of time, I can visit only either of them, either my redirect.html or yahoo.com. So apart from that, let's say sometimes I want both of them parallelly. So we can use target attribute to make sure that we can give, there are different parameters that are available, like blank, it will open in the another tab or another window. So when I have a target as, let's say I have a target as underscore blank, and now when I visit my HTML and click it, it opens in other tab. You can have both of them parallelly, right? So likewise, there is something called a self. Self is something like, it's a default thing. So whenever you click have href without any targets, it is considered a self target, which replaces the current web page that is visited. The parent is like there is another tag called as frames. Okay, frames tag. So we'll see when we come across it. But just to give you an idea, you guys might have seen this W3 schools, right? So just to show you, I've opened it. So W3 schools, if you see the parallelly, you can write code here and you can see the result output here, right? So basically they implement concept of frames. So let's say by default href, when you run it and you see it, you click it, you don't see the entire stuff getting changed. Only this particular stuff will change. Where did it go? It did not load. See, only this particular frame got changed, right? This is one frame and this is another frame. So self is like where it doesn't know whether it is frame or it is a browser or it is a tab. It doesn't know anything. So wherever this particular file is there, it replaces with the other file. Whereas parent is like, this is one frame, this is another frame. The parent frame is this, right? The entire stuff is the parent frame. These two are children, right? These two blue stuffs are children of the parent. So when I have the target as parent, I'm spending more time on this because these are important things. There are many other attributes for href as an anchor tag, but those are not much important. So when I click on it, see, the parent got changed. It did not change this particular stuff just because of target parent. It can be top also. Let's say I have multiple frames. Inside this frame, I have another subframe, another subframe, another subframe. Let's say I have 10 levels of hierarchies of frames. Okay. So in that point of time, I don't want my parent frame to be replaced. I want my entire page to be replaced. So then I can say top, the top frame will be replaced. And the frame name is something like, as I was telling you, multiple levels of hierarchies of frame. I want some particular frame which is in the top of hierarchy or bottom hierarchy. I want to change it. So I can give a name attribute, like even for the anchor tag, we can give a name attribute. Name attribute, ID attribute, class attributes are default for all the tags in HTML. Any tag you take, you can add these tags like name, ID, class. So you can have like this. So same as a frame. Even for the frame tag, you can have a name attribute and you can mention that particular name here. That will be redirected to that. So this is basic about anchor tag. And most important thing, one common, I mean, people are not using it these days, but in olden days, if you, before this HTML5, AngularJS, all these concepts came into picture, when initially HTML was introduced, anchor tag was used for two purposes. One is for visiting links that we saw it. Another was anchor. So the name itself, anchor, came from a different scenario. Like Like anchor tag is basically used for two purposes. One is for visiting links, another is for navigating from within same page. Let's say my web page is very large, so it's not a simple page, it's a very huge page, but then I want to navigate from top to bottom. Like if you see some websites, when you scroll down, you'll see a small icon in the left or right which says the top. When you click on it, automatically it will navigate to the top of the page. Have you ever seen that? Guys, ever see that? Have you ever seen that?
I haven't observed that. Sorry.
What?
I haven't seen that. Sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, there are many web pages. When you scroll down, you'll see they'll show you a top, a small element like top. When you click on it, I mean, instead of manually scrolling top, you can directly click on.
Yeah,
it
I got
reaches to the top. You got it, right?
Yeah.
So anchors are used for that kind of purposes. Okay, but sad part of it is HTML5 doesn't support this anchor tag. In fact, we can say deprecated. It will still work because browsers are still aware of older versions of HTML. They can even know the older versions of HTML. Maybe down the line, future 10-15 years down the line, if all the browsers now move to only HTML5 and if they don't support the previous versions, the anchor functionality will not work. So how does that work is like, let's say I have multiple, I have lot much text in between. So things like this. Oh, okay. So if you see that when I was trying to even have a white space here, this is another important part of HTML. Let's have a text with line separator. I have put it in a different line also. When you run it, you will see it in the same line because HTML doesn't know, doesn't consider your enter as a next line character. So until unless you have BR is another tag which is actually used for moving to next line. Separate, it's like a separator kind of stuff.
Yeah,
there are other things like, yeah, break line. Yeah, that's the purpose of that. So I'm just trying to create a scroll bar so that we can see the functionality of it. So now if you see, there is a scroll bar on the left pan, right? My visit W3 schools on the top, and let's say I don't have this. I'll remove this target hash bottom. I'll have it as top. So name of this particular anchor tag is top, and I am referring to another anchor tag with name bottom. Okay. So I'll have it in the bottom. So the name of this anchor tag is bottom, and this particular thing I'm saying that whenever I click this, go to top anchor tag. Hash top means it searches for top anchor tag in the same file and go and scrolls back to that particular thing. And if you see here, it searches for bottom anchor tag in the same file and it navigates to that particular thing. So now when I click on it, see, it got scrolled, right? Now when I click here, it scrolls to the top. I don't have to scroll manually using the mouse. Got it? So I mean, it's a very simple functionality, but it actually helps for the users when you have a very huge page with, I mean, it's very common, like Facebook and all. If you see that you get many posts, you scroll down very so much, and now if you want to scroll back, you have to do page up or mouse manually scroll it. But if you can provide this a simple solution using anchor tags, a small link, when you click it, it will automatically navigate your user to top or bottom. Or let's say there are 10 sections in your same page. Okay, this can be another way of creating a single page application. So these days, if you might be aware of seeing many web pages, instead of navigating from one page to another page, you just have to do mouse scroll. It will show you all the pages in the same page. Have you ever seen such kind of web pages?
Yeah, I've seen it.
So that's actually they built it using latest technologies, but you can also implement it using this anchor tag concept. So you can have let's say my default size of each page is each section of my web page is 500 or 700 pixels. So I can have 10 sections like that, so that automatically my scroll bar comes up because my screen size is only 700 pixel, assuming to be 700 pixel. So screen size is 700 pixel. I have 10 of them, which means that 1000 pixels. My web page size is 1000 pixels. So automatically scroll bar comes up. So now I can have a top menu in the top, menu in the top, and then point each of them with an anchor tag, like we've seen it, right? So now we have only one anchor tag here. I can have, let's say, I can have it as a home. Same thing with, let's say, so many. I have other sections. So instead of home, I can have it as testimonials. Another can be about us, things like that. And I can refer each of them to that particular testimonials, right? And I can have it as about us. So I can have these particular anchor tags with the name as about us and testimonials somewhere, wherever you want. And when you click on it, automatically page scrolls to that particular section. Got it? We'll end for today. So you can take it up assignment, like create a install web server, host it, create some anchor tags, a page, something like that with dummy content, but so many other anchor tags and navigating from one anchor tag to another anchor tag, such kind of things. Probably you can try with comments also that we discussed.